This is going to be a replacement to my previous UBI defined video, partly because there's a better lighting setup now, and I'm not absolutely and completely wiped out like I was during one's filming. So, this will be the start of my own playlist for discussion of UBI, which UBI is the abbreviation for Universal Basic Income. And to start this series, I will be giving your primer for Universal Basic Income, which starts with defining it. The best definition I have for it is by Basic Income Earth Network, which is that a basic income is a periodic cash payment unconditionally delivered to all on an individual basis without means test or work requirement. A basic income typically has 5 characteristics. These characteristics are as follows. 1. It is periodic. It is paid at regular intervals, for example, every month, not as a one-off grant. That is what sets Universal Basic Income apart from suggestions like the citizen's dividend or a negative income tax full return at when you would get your negative tax return. That brought up, there are various versions of getting to a basic income, and I covered them in the series. But for Universal Basic Income, these are the points. The second feature is that it is a cash payment. It is paid in an appropriate medium of exchange, allowing those who receive it to decide what they spend it on. It is not therefore paid either in kind, such as food or services, or in vouchers dedicated to a specific use. What it really means is a universal basic income is either cash or cash equivalent. It can be used on anything based on what the individual's needs are. If you want to use it for food, you use it for food. If you want to use it as a down payment for a car, use it for that. If you want to buy electronics with it, use it for that. A basic income does not care. It is cash equivalent to recipients. Part 3, it is individual. That's who the recipients are. Each individual. It is paid on an individual basis and not, for example, to just households, as most often various forms of welfare are. A lot of the time, many of these social safety net programs are paid to your entire household group, taken as a whole, and that has complications and errors compared to a proper universal basic income, which will be given to everyone who qualifies. Typically, this is everyone who is considered an adult and is not currently imprisoned. Now, that is actually the part 4, the universal part. It is paid to all. It has no means test. It does not care what color you are, what gender you are, if you are mentally or physically divergent or disabled, it does not care. Universality is properly universal. Everyone gets it equally. This is why in a lot of universal basic income models, it is supplemented with some form of additional assistance for people who have specific needs. They are not mutually exclusive. They can exist together. The last part of universal basic income, part 5, unconditional. It is paid without a requirement to work or demonstrate willingness to work. See above, a universal basic income does not care if you are disabled or divergent. It does not care about whether you are in school, whether you are working. Everyone gets it. Everyone gets it equally. They can use it for what they feel that they need. Now, universal basic income has a very long history. It has had various diverse versions of how to implement it. There are various ways to get to something basic income like. You might be familiar with other things like the citizens dividend, the guaranteed minimum income, negative income tax, but universal basic income stands apart from them in a few ways, which I have detailed much more precisely down in the playlist. If you want to jump to that, I believe it is video 7 of 8. Right now, universal basic income is having a sort of idea renaissance. There has been a whole lot of interest generated around universal basic income in very recent times, the last couple of years. And I believe it is actually going to be October 26th. There is supposed to be a big march and rally based around the idea of universal basic income. And that is part of why I kind of slightly rushed this series out, even though I took plenty of time to do my research. I wanted it out and available before that event. So that's what universal basic income is. Below you will find my examples of various parts of it. I am trying to use very simple numbers, which typically revolve around $1,000 a month. And for the VAT video in particular, I assume 10%. You may notice that those numbers sound familiar if you are aware of Andrew Yang's proposal for a universal basic income branded as the freedom dividend. I do have bias. I am a supporter. But I try to bring this topic forward using those numbers, but without innate bias. Because this is a long topic. It has a long history, it has a lot in it. And while I have some preferences, I'm also trying to make this easily digestible, which means most of the links that I'm going to be using are also going to be in form of videos, typically by Kurzgesagt, or In a Nutshell, as they are sometimes better known, because those sorts of videos are easily linked and they shouldn't offend anyone. They're easy to digest, they're easy to take. So there's your primer. Bye.